Hello and welcome to another edition of the Knicks Film School pregame show. My name is Andrew Claudio, aka GMAC, and it's time to preview another Knicks matchup, this time on Thursday night against the Boston Celtics. One of the Knicks' potential rivals. It's come up on the Mount Rushmore throughout this year that the New York-Boston rivalry is probably stronger than Knicks-Celtics, especially this season when the Celtics have just kind of run and hidden from the rest of the Eastern Conference. And I'm recording this at about 7:50 on Wednesday night, so I don't know if this is right now the 1 versus the 2 in the Eastern Conference. Orlando and Milwaukee are about to tip off, so we will hopefully when you're listening to this, you'll know what our mood is at the end of that matchup. But going into this game on Thursday, there's a lot of Celtics that are questionable. They have nothing to play for, and potentially maybe giving the Knicks a bit of an easy roster to take advantage of. But we'll see. We'll see if the Celtics decide last minute that this is a game that they want to win. Joining me to talk about this matchup, someone that I've been trying to get on the pod all year because his co-host at How Bout Them Celtics has been on here and always alludes to his co-host Sam. So shout out to Jack Simone, who has always said, well, Sam says this. Well, Sam would say this. Well, finally, Sam's going to say some stuff on here. Sam LaFrance, welcome to the Knicks Film School Podcast, sir.
Hey, thank you for having me. I was looking forward to coming on a couple times, and I just unfortunately had some stuff come up, but I'm pumped to be here. And I want to shout out Jack, too. He's cool.
Yes, he's cool.
Sometimes.
Yeah, he's all right. He's all right. You know, he calls the... So here's the first test I'm going to give you. Okay. Where do the Celtics play?
They play the Garden.
All right. Well, this is a fun podcast, everybody. This was fun. This was fun. Off to a rousing start.
The one with the banners in it. Come on.
The one with what?
The banners in it.
That just means it's the one with the banners in it. It doesn't mean it's the Garden.
It's the Garden. When
the league says the Garden, so when you hear people refer to Madison Square Garden as the Garden, are you like, no, it's actually in Boston?
Sometimes I say fake Garden, but only because you
call Madison Square Garden the fake Garden is what you're saying. Yeah,
I do. Okay. I do. I'm a hater. My Twitter bio says generational hater. I would tell you guys to follow me. You will not like what you read.
So it's funny, Giancarlo down in the Miami Heat beat in Miami. I'm a hater first. I'm an analyst second. It seems you adopt the same motto, my friend. So this should be an interesting podcast. And it's tough because I'd love to dish the hate back. I'd love to go at it, New York, Boston. It's just impossible to hate on this Celtics team that is currently sitting with the 4th best net rating ever. 62-17. They've kind of been on autopilot for the last month and a half. I forget which loss it was that Missoula. It might have been the Cavs loss, which I know might have sounded some alarms in Boston. But Missoula, but like in the post game, Missoula's like, yeah, we were trying some stuff. It's like, wow.
He always says that.
But you're like at the point in the season where you just try some stuff against another East contender, and you're just like, yeah, we'll see what this works. We're up by 15 in the 15 games, like with the. We're practicing while we're playing basketball games at this point in the season. So, I mean, you just tell me, how are the vibes? I was told that you can be somewhat paranoid, but
I am paranoid, yeah.
So is it possibly paranoid with a 62-17 team that's run away with the Eastern Conference?
It's remarkable because, listen, I love when the Celtics are good. It's fantastic. Like, obviously, you want your team to be good. However, when your team is this good, it kind of sucks. Because when your team's this good, if the Celtics do not win the title this year, I do not want to know what happens. Now, they just did the holiday extension right before we did this, so that eases the nerves a little bit. I had a theory. I was like, if they don't win, you may see some even more major changes. But it seems like ownership is committed to this group, which makes me happy. Objectively, they've been fantastic all year. They have had very little consecutive games where they have just not been very good. Never mind games, but it's rare for them to play multiple quarters in a row that just don't look good. They often kind of get it together. The reputation that the Celtics have had for years is like, okay, they're up, but do we trust them? No, we don't. Nope, not at all. I couldn't trust those guys as far as I could throw them. But now it feels like they do let teams back into games at times, but then they immediately get it back together. They push and they rebuild the lead. Like even the Cavs game that you mentioned, it was a disaster. 22-point lead gone in the fourth quarter. But Cleveland had climbed back in the third, and then the Celtics got it back to 22, like after it was down to like 3 or something. So they have gotten so much better at just leveling and weathering the storm. And I actually feel like the old man of the Knicks, Kristaps, is a big part of that. He rules. I love him. And he's great for the vibes, too. He's thrilled. That guy is always smiling. He rules. I love him so much. But they really do make you feel confident as much as you can. But I'm not looking forward to getting hurt. I always call the playoffs like the most wonderful time of the year. I was saying it last year. And then they dropped 2 games to the Hawks, and that was the end of my fun.
Yeah, listen, as a Knicks fan, we just haven't flatly experienced the playoffs a ton this century. And it's weird. The first time, the Julius Randle 4-seed year, where that was a house of cards that by game 1, it was clear, they know how to stop us. And obviously that was a quick thing, but that was very much just happy to be here. Last year, as a 5-seed, there was a point in the season where we were wondering how high this ceiling could go. And then beating the Cavs was like, we're the Hawks now. Like, we're a team that's going to make a deep run. And then a more experienced Heat team that I'm obviously, all about, decided they were going to turn it on in the playoffs and, ended our season too. And then the Knicks go into this season because of the Randall injury with a hint of house money, but the way they've played and the way they've just continued to fight, we have no idea what to like. It's like disrespectful to say like, we don't have any expectations for you. No, this team expects something of themselves to at least get to the conference finals and maybe even play the Celtics. It's like the 2 complete opposite dynamics where Knicks fans are like, let's try to achieve the conference finals, and anything short from what I'm hearing from you of a championship is like lose game 7 to Jokic at the buzzer, and you're like, this is a complete failure, right?
Probably yes, but like when you say it like that, it doesn't feel as bad. But
it's championship or bust at this point, right?
It feels that way, and if they don't make the finals, it's going to be even worse. Like it's going to be hell frozen over in Boston. People are already like they don't love Joe Mazzulla. A lot of the fan base, Jack and I are fine with him. Like I like Joe a lot. I think his coaching style really complements this team. Obviously, this year's roster is different than last year's, where you had some guys exit and then you bought new guys in, and they actually have bought into what he's selling. Like a lot of people were missing Ime Udoka after the playoffs last year. Mm-hmm. And maybe he was the right coach for that group. But now that you have Kristaps, you have Drew Holiday, and Derek White has really taken a step up this year. All of these guys are buying the mindset thing, the game-to-game thing that he's selling, and you can really feel that they're behind him. And that's so important when they're trying to win a title because they have to keep focused in the playoffs. Otherwise, they're going to end up like they did last year.
What I think is the interesting thing to ask you next, we'll talk about the East in a second, but I do think Denver should be a question that comes up because I do think my finals pick right now, of course, it's going to be the Knicks against somebody. But if I say the Knicks, like for some reason, don't make it, right? If it's Celtics Nuggets, which would be my finals prediction, like, what are your thoughts going in? I know they lost both matchups to them. Probably the best regular season game of the season was that Thursday night between the 2 teams in Denver. And for as much as people made the case and made a big deal about how Denver won that game, that was a tie game or a 3-point game with like a minute left and Tatum missed a 3.
Sure
like,
did.
But like it wasn't that wasn't a blowout. It didn't look like it was varsity JV. That was a good basketball game. So you're like, how are you feeling right now in going into a potential 7-game series against Denver at this point in the Celtics season?
Yeah, Denver is a team that's played the Celtics really great in both games. The game in Denver in particular, we'll start with that one. That was a game watching it that I did not feel like the Celtics had any say in. Like Denver was in control of that entire game. The game was not close early in the fourth quarter. Drew Holiday sparked a miracle comeback to get it to the Tatum opportunity to go ahead. But everything that Denver got in that game was easy. And everything the Celtics got was tough. It was fall-aways after fall-away after 3. And I know they go for plenty of 3s, and that's fine. I'm not a 3 hater. I used to not love it. But, I mean, they lead the league in percentage. I can't get that mad. But Jokic makes everything so easy on these guys, and the amount of attention that he demands on the defensive end, Kristaps Porzingis is just not strong enough to guard him. And that's okay. Not a lot of people are guarding Jokic. That's fine. The problem is Jokic is such a genius Now that you have to send help defense, Aaron Gordon got probably at least 6 free baskets in the clutch, whether it was off of a pass or he was able to crash because nobody was boxing him out because everyone was looking at Jokic. So that part really sucked. And then the game in Boston was a very winnable game. The Celtics played pretty well. They, for what it's worth, have played decent defense against Denver in both games. I know the one in Boston, they only gave up 103. The one in Denver was 112, something like that. They did a good job at slowing him down towards the end, but Jokic still got his guys open looks. The game in Boston, both teams didn't do anything for the last 5 minutes. It was 99-98 for like 4.5 minutes. They gave up an offensive rebound to MPJ, and he scores a bucket. And then Tatum went 1-on-4 on a fast break, and I lost my mind. But they just really didn't execute well down the stretch. And if there's anything about the Celtics that I really hate is that they can't play in the clutch. And a lot of people will say that's not true. Some people will say it is. I lean towards the it is part, but I think they can fix it. It's just maybe don't have Tatum do everything every single time. Even if you want to do it sometimes, it's okay. Like, that's your best guy. You got to get him the ball. But you have like 5 best guys. Use them. You have all these players. Use them.
I think the scary part, if I were a Celtics fan, is like, I think that secret's out because our takeaway with the Knicks, like, I'm not saying that would be the Knicks should not be favored in that series at all if it ends up coming to a Knicks Celtics series. But if I'm looking to poke holes in what seems like a Teflon armor of a 60 plus win team, it's that there's 3-point variance sometimes in the playoffs, and this Celtics team is going to try and be the first team ever to win a title, making more threes than twos. And the clutch time performances that it seems like it's okay, Jayson, go be awesome. Okay, Jalen, go be awesome. That's why I think that Nuggets game, to your point, was the perfect, just picture of the two different styles where the Celtics, it seemed like it was okay, here's a 3, we worked ball movement, Kristaps, your turn. Okay, Jalen, your turn. Okay, like Jalen had a great game that game, and then the big 3 that Drew hit was Drew, your turn. Whereas the Nuggets, look, Jokic is entering an unstoppable portion of his career where we're just kind of all putting our hands up, and I really do wonder if the only thing that can potentially guard him is, like, I know that the Timberwolves fans have taken a victory lap for a 5-game series last year that, yes, Gobert made it, right, like he made it difficult.
My team won 1 game.
Yeah, it's like, oh, yeah, we made it difficult for you. It's, yes, as they won the series in 5 games. And I fully expect if they match up, if that's the conference finals, that would also be like a 5 or 6 game series. But like Embiid's the other one where I think he's the only one that's had somewhat success because he can match the physicality and can make Jokic work on the other end of the floor. But I mean, look, my takeaway of that Nuggets game in Denver was to exactly what you're saying. Anytime you just let him go one-on-one with Porzingis, Jokic did what he wanted. Anytime you brought help, he's finding whoever is deciding to cut at the moment. It's why, I mean, is there anybody else in the West that you fear? Is it really just like the Nuggets are the boogeyman if you're setting your sights on the finals at all?
So I have a couple answers. I don't know how scared I am, but these are the things I see with certain teams that I'm like, the Celtics really going to do great against them? The Clippers beat the brakes off the Celtics at home at the Garden for you. They beat the brakes off them. And I mean, the Celtics got them in LA, but Kawhi didn't play in that game. And I think everybody played for the Celtics in that Saturday game. It was just a disaster. They had no answer for anything. They couldn't score. And the fact that LA has Kawhi and Paul George to match up with Tatum and Brown makes it a bit easier for them. Luckily for the Celtics, like Porzingis is an excellent player. Derek White's been excellent. Drew is excellent. And all 4 of the entire starting 5 really should be able to create shots for themselves, but especially the ball handlers can penetrate and get the ball over the rim. So that's one team that kind of makes me nervous, but I'm not sure how much I buy James Harden, even though he doesn't have to do a whole lot now that he has really good players with him. And another team's OKC. I think they have played the Celtics well. They beat the Celtics this year. And they have a lot of guys, just like the Celtics. Shea killed them. The one positive I'll take from the game they lost in OKC was Tatum decided that was enough. In the 4th quarter, he guarded Shea and held him to over 3, and the Celtics made a huge comeback. So if they were to adjust like that, I would feel a little bit better. But those two teams jump off the page to me for sure. They beat up on Dallas this year. Phoenix, they beat up on. In Minnesota, they had some good games against Minnesota, but I'm not really convinced Minnesota gets to where they're going to play the Celtics anyway. So
I think we have the same mindset that it's a tier of one with Denver, and then maybe the Clippers. Throughout this entire season, we do a Patreon podcast where we talk about the NBA at large, and that's when I get the chance to talk about the Celtics. And I think we once a month we do a power rankings, and it's not necessarily like a rank of 1 through 30 in championship equity. It's a how you doing, like how you feeling, like how do you feel about you at the moment rankings.
Bucks dead last
right now, yeah.
Docking the boys.
Well, so like the Clippers at one point this year when they were winning every game, they're one of the 3 teams I thought could win the title. Before that, like the first beginning stretch when they were 9-10 with Harden after the trade, they were in like the 20s, and like John and I were like, yeah, I feel nothing about this team. They have gone all in on these 30-plus-year-olds, and I don't know what the ceiling is. And then after that, this most recent stretch when Russ went out, and apparently that was the thing that was holding it all together, they were back in the 20s again. So the ups and downs, ebbs and flows. I think the only other team besides Boston and Denver that I've said, like, I feel confident can win a title all season has been the Clippers. Like there was a moment where I thought the Clippers could win the title because of like just what they looked like during those 2 months. And, we'll see what happens in the playoffs. But to your point, it's like that tier of one with Denver, then the Clippers, then there's like 2 to 4 teams. We'll see what happens with Dallas and whichever.
They have Kyrie under control.
They
More
do.
Power to them. Respect.
I was going to say
our boys couldn't do it.
Yours boys couldn't. Our little brothers across the river couldn't do it, and he went to Texas.
He was worse with the Nets, I would say.
I would say so for much different reasons that we won't have to fully get into here on the pod. But I think he's played outstanding, which is why it's like, oh, does Kyrie know how to play off of a generational forward that knows how to find people off ball? Yeah, actually, he won a title with a guy like that. So who knows? I'm putting no ceiling on Dallas for this playoffs. Well, I don't think they can win the title, but like they're in that like third tier with like whichever legacy team comes out of the play-in, the Lakers or the Warriors, where it's like, oh, I'm not gonna fully count them out. I know I just said the Lakers, but
I love the Lakers to lose. It would be the greatest.
I can imagine. We'll get into your Mount Rushmore rivals in a bit. So that's the West. I mean, the East, there's a chance no other team wins 50 games in the Eastern Conference.
Isn't that nuts?
Which is, I mean,
I realized that the other day.
What's happened in Milwaukee over the last week and a half between the 3-game losing streak to lottery teams. Then they played the Knicks, and I mean, we reacted to that accordingly. Like, oh, this is a huge win. Like the Knicks on the road, we like destroyed the Bucks, and then you kind of took a step back. It's like, all right, what's going on in Milwaukee? Like something stinks there. And then obviously the Giannis news has just kind of made the spot for number 2 in the Eastern Conference up for grabs. I don't want to say like who you're afraid of, because if I were a Celtics fan, I wouldn't necessarily be afraid of anybody, but if you could just tell me like the teams you don't want to see in the playoffs, like give me your top 4 or 5.
Okay, sure. So I'm gonna preface this with, I think it's really annoying that the play-in is gonna make me not know who the Celtics are gonna play as long as possible, because it sucks that both Philly and Miami are sitting there, and it's even worse for Milwaukee because they have to play one of those teams no matter what. There's a chance that the Celtics don't have to see either of them if they somehow lost to Atlanta or Chicago.
Real quick, I'll just add, there's a world Milwaukee falls to 5. So
if I was Milwaukee, I would want to. I don't want one of those play-in teams.
Okay.
Miami is always a pain in the ass. They got Spoelstra doing voodoo on these guys. You have a random guy from the G League that's going to have 30 on you. I don't want to deal with it. Now, I'll say this. If the Celtics were to beat Miami in the first round, fantastic. Great demon exercise, etc. Philly, they have probably the best player of people they could play early in the playoffs. It's Philly. It's just Philly. It's Philly. The Celtics always beat Philly. I thought last year was the year they were going to lose to Philly, and I was almost right. Now I kind of don't worry about it anymore. But those two teams are there. Milwaukee's there, even though Dame is a cone, and the Celtics can go right at him every time. Giannis being hurt makes them interesting because I don't really know if they get out of the first round. Just having said they may have to play one of those teams. If he's not healthy, you saw what happened last year. That's a big part of their defense. They packed the paint against the Celtics, and the Celtics really couldn't do much yesterday, and it really made it hard for them. Not to say the Celtics are going to shoot 32% from three in every game, but it was definitely a different looking offensive game to me. I mean, the Knicks are probably in the top four. I think the thing about the Knicks is, one, I think Jalen Brunson is tremendous. And I also agree with you. You were talking about, you think to yourself, if the Knicks get in a close game with the Celtics, like they might win that. And I kind of don't like that that's out there for people because of like the Hawks games that they blew last week or 2 weeks ago. Like everybody saw that. And everyone's like, keep it close against the Celtics. It could be tough. So the fact that Brunson can play and be a scorer late in the game, that gives them a leg up in those situations on the Celtics. Like Tatum should be able to do that. I don't know what's wrong with him this year, but Xavier Tillman has more game winners than him, actually than anybody on the Celtics for what it's worth this season. So that's like the concern with the Knicks. I think the Knicks are a good rebounding team too, which could give the Celtics some problems. Mitchell Robinson back and Hartenstein's a pain too. Love Hartenstein. He would be a great Celtic. Not that he will be, but he would be. And I think it's helpful that Randall's not playing. I think Randall's like really bad. Like I'm not convinced he's very good. Like he just fumbles around, goes into three guys, turns the ball over, throws up bad threes. Like I think the Knicks are kind of better off without him.
First of all, you're preaching to a very large portion of the Knicks fan base, that choir that is like, yes, we are better off without Julius Randle. I think there's some nuance somewhere in the middle where they can play differently with Randle, and their defense looks better. Their offense looks more diverse. I also just think in the playoffs need shot makers, and in theory, Julius Randle should be one of them. He just has not made shots in the playoffs.
Throws it off the top of the backboard.
So it's tough to be like, yeah, we need shot makers. And it's like I said this on, I think it was on a pregame pod, the most recent one I did, because I was just like going around the league, and it's like I know it shouldn't make sense to be like I'm not confident about the Knicks playoff chances because they're missing Julius Randle, who has been part of the reason why they haven't succeeded in the playoffs their last two trips. The version of this team from January was something I thought could give the Celtics a lot of trouble, because you mentioned throwing Kawhi and Paul George at Tatum and Brown, and I counter that with maybe a lighter version of it. But at what Anunoby's been, I think he matches up well against both. He could switch onto either one. Josh Hart has been outstanding, and what
He's
the Knicks have
Tatum well.
What the Knicks have gone to with this new team, like they're since the trade for Anunoby that sent Quickly and RJ out, they're just like flatly a better defensive team. They're top 10 offense, top 10 defense at this point in the season. So it's almost like it makes you wonder what that team could have been if you also had to deal with the battering ram against the Celtics team that we saw what someone like Jokic does to Porzingis. I still would probably pick the Celtics in that series. I would have thought the Knicks could force it to 7. Now they're going to try and do it, honestly, the Celtics way, with either Jalen Brunson being awesome, which he has just flatly been for the last, really this entire season, and they're going to have to hit a ton of threes, and find more creative ways to score the ball. That wasn't, to your point about Julius Randle, just Julius, be awesome, and we'll use you as a hub. Now that hub is Isaiah Hartenstein. So I'm nuanced when it comes to Julius. I recognize his faults. I think there's less criticism than more criticism that's deserved.
An encouraging part of this Knicks team, and the Celtics are the same way, these guys like each other.
Yeah.
Like they like playing with each other. They get along. Yeah. They were looking at the eclipse together the other day. Like you don't really see a whole lot of camaraderie, at least publicly, from a lot of teams, but these two teams are two teams that really enjoy each other's company. And of course, like all those guys played college together, so it makes sense. And, that can really help you. If it's tough in the playoffs and you go down, you have a bad loss or something, I don't think those guys are going to get mad at each other. I don't think they're going to point fingers. So it could be a lot easier for them to bounce back than some other teams. Like Milwaukee's a team I can see like, oh, Dame, you don't play defense. Oh, Brook Lopez, you barely move up and down the floor. Chris Middleton, you're washed. Giannis, do something other than play football. Like there's a billion things those guys could get mad at each other for, but the Knicks do seem to gel together well, which makes it great for them. We have a guy that watches our show that just, no matter what, will comment about the Knicks. So I am rooting extremely hard for the Knicks to lose.
Okay, because of that guy.
That one guy. He commented on. We did a stream today. He woke up at 7:30 a.m. Our stream was good for 11. Comments: Knicks 17-3 with OG. Nobody asked. Didn't ask. Don't care. I'm rooting for the Knicks to lose in the first round. I'm like the biggest hater of all time. He has turned me on all of you.
I mean, Sam, they are 17-3 with OG Anunoby. I mean, that is like a thing I like to. I don't volunteer it as much, but when people ask why I feel so good about this Knicks team, it's because they're 17-3 with OG Anunoby. You know,
they haven't beat the Celtics yet.
They haven't played the Celtics yet with OG Anunoby.
They have not, but they haven't beat the Celtics this year.
You are right. You're right.
They're looking to be 0-5, the first team 0-5 ever.
So
they probably won't be, though.
That's my next question. Who's playing tomorrow night? Or when people are listening to this tonight? So you're at that point of like rest everybody. Like this is you don't care about a certain amount of wins that the Celtics get this year, or a home record, or maybe the all-time greatest net rating. Like, what's your are you okay if like Peyton Pritchard plays 48 minutes tomorrow night?
Peyton Pritchard rules first and foremost. Peyton Pritchard rules.
He's a seventh man. Like, you know what I'm saying? You know.
So I'll answer like all these things. Net rating, okay. I couldn't care less. I'm sick of seeing like the Celtics up with all these teams with net rating because I'm paranoid. I'm like, I don't want them to be the one that doesn't do it, because then it'll be like, hey, look at that Celtics team. Weren't they a joke? The home record, I care. I think it's cool that they haven't lost a home game to an Eastern Conference team yet. And I just like that they don't lose at home, really. I'm pretty pissed that they even lost any games at home, to be honest, because 2 of them were winnable. The Clippers, they just got killed. Do I want them to rest guys? Yes. 1, I don't want anybody getting hurt. And 2, I want to be like the wrestling villain. If like you want to fight me, I'm not going to fight you. Like you can wait. You can wait. Like I think they should have set everybody against Milwaukee yesterday, but this dumb G League team keeps winning games. Now they're in the finals. So you don't have all the two-way guys with you to run out there and play. So everybody had to play in Milwaukee yesterday. I was bummed, but I don't want anybody playing against the Knicks. I don't need the guy in our comments to get any kind of wind under him. All I need to say is nobody played. Game doesn't matter. It's like a win-win. If you lose, then you win. And if you win, then you really win.
So let me pull up for those that missed the announcement. This is the Celtics injury report at the moment. It's quite literally everybody. Yes. I mean,
I am ready if needed.
Sam's not kidding. He might play tomorrow based off of this is from Keith Smith, who obviously it's just the Celtics injury report. Jaylen Brown, Drew Holiday, Al Horford, Kristaps Porzingis, Jayson Tatum, and Xavier Tillman are all questionable for tomorrow's game against the Knicks. Am I hearing this right? The question for this game that we may be asking is, does the G League team make players available to play instead of these guys? And if they don't, then we're going to see them instead?
I don't know if that's the question, because they're going to be in OKC. Like, they're not even in Maine.
Oh, so they
got to go out on the road. They probably already left. I don't know. That's a good question. I think they're going to try and win the G League thing. They just like stomped the OKC G League team yesterday. And those guys have looked really good. I don't know. I've never really watched G League, but that like high school gym they play in up in Portland is bumping. It's sick. Okay. Garden North.
No, the other Garden North. Yes.
The other Garden North.
I think. Okay, so that gives me pause on any confidence that these guys aren't playing. Because look, I would take no stock in the Knicks. Like, we beat the Celtics if they were to beat this version, like the G League.
That's what team. I want.
I would. Well, so I think most Knicks fans, aside from your friend in your comments, is that I do think most Knicks fans are rational about the Celtics and understanding this would be one of the bigger upsets ever if the Knicks were to compete in a series against the Celtics, maybe force like a game 7. But I would like 2 seed. So that's, I think, where I'm at. I also think there's a very fun version that the way this season ends, where Orlando, Indiana is the play-in. And then for both of us, for both of us, we get probably by consensus the 2 weakest opponents, although whatever Milwaukee is now might actually be the weakest opponent. Who knows? Because they're just the Blazers from last year if Giannis can't play, which
it would be the Blazers.
Like, just no disrespect to Portland. I'm just not as afraid of Dame if I don't have Giannis to worry about. So we'll see. I think I think going into this matchup, I think a lot of Knicks fans, it's not even like play style or anything. And maybe if these two teams match up, you and I can have another conversation. Maybe we'll make it a full crossover with Jack about like how these teams match up. But it's really who's playing is my question about this matchup on Thursday night. And from what you're telling me, you would like everybody to sit, and there's a good chance they will.
So I guarantee you're only going to see one of, if not zero of, Al Horford, Kristaps, because those guys don't play back-to-backs. They have a back-to-back against Charlotte on Friday. So one of them will sit. Al usually sits the second one, so if I had to guess, you're going to see Al. Tatum likes to play. That's what I'll tell you. He likes to play games. He doesn't like to sit out. I know the clip of him talking about Monday on League Pass went viral, but they're at home, so like I don't think he feels as bad that people that could see him 41 times a year might not see him in one day. I would like them to sit Jalen. He's been dealing with this weird hand thing where he kind of looks a little off. He doesn't look the greatest. He cooled off after the awesome March that he had where he was just playing like he was 2018 LeBron going through people's chests and nobody could do anything. Like what you saw in that Denver game was how he played almost the entire month. The guards are usually pretty durable. Like Derek White played all 82 games last year and he only misses games when he is having a kid. But now they're kind of trying to rest these guys. I feel like you're probably going to get half of those guys. That is what I'd guess, and the other half will sit the second half of the back-to-back against the Hornets.
So this actually transitions into the next topic, the potential awards placement and where guys may end up. So let's start here. What's your 5-man MVP ballot at the moment? Just
so Jack,
your personal ballot. Yeah.
No, so Jack will tell you. I'm going to do it. I'm not going to give you a hard time. I hate the MVP conversation. Jokic is going to win MVP. The runner-up should be Shea. After that is meaningless. It does not matter. Okay. However, so I'll go down. I'll say Jokic, Shea, Embiid is out because he's hurt.
Right.
So I don't like to put Luka in there. It just feels like he plays my career ball. I don't like it. Like it feels fake. I know they're actually kind of good this year, but I always say it's my career ball. Like I can't get past it. But he's in it. He's in the top 5. I don't know. He's 3. Brunson is there, and I feel like I'm missing somebody.
So Giannis and Tatum are the other two.
Oh, Giannis might be there.
Yeah.
I feel like the Bucks have underachieved. So I will say Tatum. I'm not really that high. So Tatum's a great player, but at the same time, like he annoys me, and I don't think he's as good as he could be. And it's not because he's sacrificing. I just think he's dumb sometimes. But he's not dumb in a like making the wrong decision with a pass kind of way. He just takes dumb step back threes that make me want to put my head in the microwave.
That's it. It's a little bit of. I mean, if you say Luka plays my career ball, there's some he Kobe in Jayson Tatum.
Yeah. But from 3 and not even the mid-range.
That's the thing. He just takes the appropriate efficient 3, the efficient shot rather than the long 2s Kobe was taking. But it's quite literally out of the same playbook of, going one-on-one and creating a shot for yourself rather than like Kobe. I think the more you actually look back at his career, he made the right play more than we realized. We just weren't as sophisticated as offenses back then. It was like just the Spurs and the Suns that were relying on ball movement to create open looks.
And they were playing with guys like us. Like the talent was not there.
Exactly. You didn't have like the thing that Kobe, one of his last healthy practice shots or videos that went around was him yelling like, I'm supposed to play with these guys,
Yes,
and then later that season he tore his Achilles. But I think the more fascinating thing about where you're going with your MVP ballot is I would sense from both Jack and many other Celtics fans that if I were to say Brunson should be ahead of Tatum on an MVP ballot, that there would be a ton of pushback, right?
So I am a big winning guy. I'm like, you have to win games for me to care. I mean, Luka and the Mavs have climbed up the ranks higher than I thought they were going to do. And they could fall because this season's weird. However, I'm not leaning on the Tatum super team thing that you see go around Twitter, but I feel like what Brunson has put into this Knicks team is more impressive to me, where I know it's not entirely a one-man show, but it does feel that way. Brunson to me is Isaiah. The Isaiah year that was magic, where he was unbelievable. Mr. Fourth Quarter, it was maybe the most fun year I've had as like an intense fan of the Celtics. Like I'm 25, so I got in right after Pierce and Garnett got traded. I was still like kind of in, but I really was like, okay, this is cool. I'm going to really pay attention to it. It was actually Game 6 against the Knicks where they almost came all the way back at TD.
2013, yeah.
It was like I was glued to the TV. I was like, this is awesome. This is the greatest. I love this.
We had different experiences
I can imagine
that series, because I think Game 5 was the first time I realized that team had just didn't have the dog in them to win a title. Like any delusional optimism that they can give, because they were 3-1 against the Heat that year, and so my thought was like, hey, get to the conference finals. Like we have a great offense. They have the big three. We have depth, and we'll bully them around a bit. By Game 4, when J.R. Smith gets suspended, in Game 5, they're dumb enough to wear black suits to the Garden that night, and I was like, "That's a championship team that you're doing that to." So I was like, "Oh, of course the Celtics are going to win." And then they almost blew Game 6, and we saw what happened against Indiana, and that
was incredible. Yeah, that was so fun to watch. But anyways, that made me love basketball. So since then, that is the Isaiah 2017 run. Even though they really probably weren't a real contender, I loved that team because it was just Isaiah and the boys. Horford was there, but it was like Isaiah, Avery Bradley, Jay Crowder, and I think they were starting Amir Johnson without Horford. So
there's a Kelly Olynyk game in that playoff too. Yep, I know you remember it. That Game 7 against the Wizards that year.
So I would say Brunson's team is better than that team. Like they just are. They have better defenders. But that's the kind of vibe I get from him. He is just willing them to win. I respect that. So I think he deserves the praise for it. And I don't really feel like Tatum deserves praise. I just don't. I'm like a sneaky Tatum hater, even though I don't dislike him. And I recognize he's a great player. He just drives me nuts sometimes. And once he wins a title, if he ever does, I'll really have a lot of respect for him. But he hasn't got it done yet, blah, 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 blah. But yes, like he just does things. He's had stretches this season where he's been like putrid. Like, I don't know. To me, if Tatum's ever going to win MVP, he actually has to like play a full season where he's good. He plays a lot of games, but he has stretches where I don't want him doing anything. So
here's the actual interesting thing about 2017 when you bring it up is that was going to be my historical precedent, because I'm a little different than you in that I actually, like, from the 10 game mark, start to track what the MVP conversation is, because I like to see how it's changed over the course of a season. Like, there was a point earlier this year where, like, Fred Katz of The Athletic, one of my good friends, I'm his producer over at his Patreon podcast and shoot. He once had Kevin Durant as his number 2 MVP ballot and went and told Zach Lowe that on a podcast. And I love Fred, but it was crazy then, and it's crazy now if Kevin Durant is number 2 on your MVP ballot. But that's how, like, the conversation has evolved over the course of a year. Is guys, like, you start off with like a pool of 15 to 20, and then it whittles down as guys start missing time, as the injuries start happening, and as there was a Tyrese Halliburton conversation.
There was Embiid.
Right. Embiid was like a runaway for a while, and then he got hurt. And so where we are now is like a 7 or 8 man conversation with really it's not even a race, but it's like, it's Jokic, and like he's got the narrative, but also he's outstanding.
Yes.
And then there's like who's going to finish second, Shea or Luka. I've come around, and I'm trying not to be a homer with this, but I think Brunson should be 4th. And then you pick your 5th. It's either you go with the winning narrative or conversation with Tatum, or you go Giannis. And the interesting thing about 2017 is a small guard, as you mentioned, that was elite offensively, one of the best offensive seasons ever, led the league in offensive EPM that season, finished 5th in MVP. And who finished 6th? The guy on the 67-win Warriors that also has one of the 4 best net ratings of all time. So the parallels are there. That was Steph Curry, who was unanimous in MVP the year before, finished 6th behind Isaiah the next season. I'm big on historical precedent. So when you're telling me that this has happened before, I'm not as like grossed out by the fact that Brunson finishing ahead of Tatum in MVP is actually not a crazy thing. I'd probably actually lean Tatum over Giannis, because a lot of the Bucks' problems seem to be caused by moves the Bucks made to try to make him happy.
Blaming the equipment manager.
Well, so that's
kind of getting the coach fired, and then acting like you didn't get the coach fired.
Right. So, like, no, you guys, we didn't have a disappointing season last year. Last year was not a failure. We can't look at that way. And then goes on a press tour, gets Mike Budenholzer fired, spends the entire offseason like putting pressure on the Bucks. They trade Drew Holiday for Dame, and like here they get one coach fired, and now Doc's here, and here they are like limping through the finish, which is I guess probably a poor choice of words because he's literally limping through the finish at this point. Well, we'll see what happens with Giannis. Yes, come playoff time. I think you're in agreement that if you wanted to put Tatum on the MVP ballot and then Giannis as first team All-NBA and bump Tatum to second, that's the consolation. It's one gets top 5 MVP, one gets first team All-NBA. I do think Giannis has had a better year.
I'm trying to think who the guy that, let's see. So it's going to be, I'm thinking of all NBA.
Yeah.
Jokic, Shea, Luka.
And I'm going Brunson, Giannis for All NBA.
Brunson,
and then
Giannis.
Tatum goes to second team.
I don't know. I don't really think about this stuff a lot. I'm like,
no, you're good. You're
Brunson
good.
over Tatum on All NBA. That's like
so
going through
that's
my
why
head.
if you're going best year, I think you could make the argument Brunson's had a better year. I don't think he's had a better year than Giannis, but we're building narratives here. And that's why I think MVP is where you elevate Brunson to the top 5 or top 4. And then it's, I personally, obviously I'm biased on my list, but I would have Brunson first team All NBA and first team and top 5. He's just been, they might be a 2 seed this year. And
overachieve.
They're just like they might win 50 games this year. And that's just like, they're a lottery team when he's not on the floor this year. So, you know,
that's why I feel the way I do about the MVP. Like he has just willed them to where they're at. And I have a ton of respect for it. Did Isaiah get first team All NBA?
He got second team, but this is why I don't know if it's fair to look at.
Because the positions, right?
Right. So he was the third guard that year.
Who was the first one? Curry?
That was, no. So that year was when Russ won the MVP with Harden. So Russ and Harden were your 2 guards.
Okay. I mean, I can see it. I don't get like, I think the first team All NBA stuff is cool, especially when it matters for a contract like it did last year with Jalen. But I don't know. Tatum feels like a first team All NBA guy just because the Celtics wins. It feels like they have to have somebody.
So if you want to, he can be first team All NBA for first team All NBA and miss top 5 for MVP. Like either one. Either way, you want to penalize Giannis or Tatum. I just was hoping we could come to an agreement. Brunson's on both lists either way, and it sounds like you're indifferent.
I hadn't thought of him as the All NBA guy. It's funny. I can get behind it. Like I respect the year he's had.
It's fourth in scoring.
Bumping one of those guys
fourth in scoring.
He has to do all the scoring.
Yeah,
I don't know.
3 players have scored more points per game than Jalen Brunson this year. It's Shea, Giannis, and Luka. Yeah,
playing my career basketball.
Right.
Let me take a look. I'm sorry.
You're good. I have it mapped out. He's averaging more points, averaging more assists, higher shooting, field goal, free throw, and 3-point than Tatum. You know, effective field goal percentage because Tatum takes so many 3-pointers on that team. It's higher, but it's like by 0.1, and the same thing with true
Tatum
shooting at 0.1.
That's his favorite thing is shooting threes.
The Celtics love the 3, Sam. So
yeah, but the Celtics take good threes. Tatum doesn't always take good threes.
Man, you are a Tatum hater. Interesting.
He doesn't. He takes dumb shots. This team is too good for bad shots. It just is. Okay.
You do playback, right? You and Sam do playback. You and Jack do playbacks. I encourage Knicks fans to just.
I'm doing it tomorrow for the Knicks. Jack won't be there because he's going to the game.
We will do we're doing a playback room also, but if Knicks fans want to check in on how Sam's doing, and just in case you lose your mind because the Knicks are, putting up big lead up on the Celtics, you seem like someone that would be fun to watch a basketball game with because of the emotions that you go throughout a basketball game.
I get so more worked up talking about it. I'm okay on playback. I have my moments.
Okay.
But I am a sit in silence guy when I watch games. I'm just like,
So is that good for playback? Wait a minute.
It's okay. I play with Jack. Jack knows how to get it out of me, and we'll joke. I really come alive in the playbacks with the in arena entertainment. That is mine.
Yes.
When you got the guys playing tic tac toe and they can't make a layup.
My favorite is Orlando, that dragon that they have. When at first I was like, what is this? And then it jumped off a ladder and I was like, oh, this is the greatest show I've ever seen.
Respect.
Exactly.
But I get fired up. I'll just be like, see, there it is. I'll be like, ugh, and then it'll go in. I'll be like, well, what do I know?
So maybe this is projecting what you hear from Bill Simmons onto you, but that does seem like a Boston or New England DNA, that there's like some paranoia. So like y'all have won a lot in the last 2 decades, and is there still, like, it seems like you still have the PTSD of like the Red Sox from that I grew up watching, that every Red Sox fan was like waiting for the other shoe to drop. Now they've won 4 titles. The Patriots were a dynasty. The Celtics honestly are the one team you can point to say that there's been bad luck. But so like the Bruins last year.
Don't loop me in with the Bruins.
I'm
a Ranger.
Above the Bruins. I'm a Ranger fan, so I'm not gonna. I promise you, I've seen my share of bad playoff losses as well.
Of the Stanley Cup at home.
Who?
Right? Bruins did.
Oh, the last year? Oh no, that's right. No.
You know what's funny?
The St. Louis season. That's right. Yeah.
I'll tell you a funny story about 2019. So 2018-19, Sox win the World Series. Patriots win the Super Bowl. Celtics have Kyrie run rampant and then ruin the season. I am actively rooting against the Bruins. I now want to have my Celtics be the only team that didn't do it. I had to commit the Celtics. So for me, the Celtics are really the team. I don't really care. I really don't care for football. Don't care for it at all. I like Brady, whatever, but I'm not like really into it. But like I respect Brady. Like he was great here. He's the greatest. Whatever. I don't care for hockey. I just can't. Too much basketball going on. I like the Red Sox, but really all I care about is the Celtics. And the Celtics have really, I can go back and tell you that at some point since 20 I'll do 2018 because I don't think I thought Isaiah would win a title. At some point in all of those seasons, I thought they would win a title. I thought or at least get to the finals. I thought they would beat the Cavs in Game 7. They did not. In 2019, when everybody's healthy after that run, I thought they would win the title. In 2020, they get to the bubble conference finals against the Heat. I thought they would beat the Lakers. They played the Lakers great that year. I thought they would beat them. 2021, they're coming off that bubble run. I thought they were going to be better than they were, and that was the worst season of them all. They should have won the finals in 22. Game 4 still haunts me to this day. And they should have at least got there last year. You can say what you want about Denver. So that's 6 straight seasons I have watched this team disappoint me. And if you are any other fan, if you told Knicks fans you could go to 5 conference finals in 7 years, they'd probably be thrilled. But for me, that is not good enough. Now I am paranoid, and I'm like, how am I going to be let down this year?
I think it's understandable though. At this point, because like if year 1 you were like this, I'd be like, all right, come on, you're a year ahead of schedule.
Correct.
That's a young team. Tatum was a rookie, and that's LeBron James. I can understand the PTSD is earned because a conference finals isn't impressive anymore. You've made your runs to the conference finals. You've made your runs to the finals at this point. And the one thing missing, to your point, is the banner that you want to add at Toronto Dominion Bank North Arena in Boston. Yes.
Beautiful place. Beautiful.
I like the arena. Don't get me wrong.
Lots of banners.
So one of my wife and I's best vacations was we rerouted during COVID a trip to Vegas. We were going to go to Summer League, and they were having a spike in COVID, so we went up to New England, and we stayed at a hotel right next to Fenway Park, and I love the city, and the Red Sox are low key my heroes because of 04.
Respect,
but it's why it's so funny to hear you be like, Tom Brady's great, whatever. Like, I've never run into someone from
I just don't care for football. Like, whatever. He is great. And they had a great run, but like, I think football's boring. I like college football. There's more pace to it. A lot of standing around in football.
There is.
A lot of hanging out.
I need to introduce you to Red Zone, but that's a conversation.
Red Zone's fine. I like fantasy football.
Right.
I would rather watch basketball. Like, football shows up, and then I'm like, it's almost time for basketball. Like, that's what I do.
It gives you a month of entertainment until basketball starts, is what you're saying. Okay. I'm
like, oh boy. Excited.
Gotcha. Do I dare even ask, baseball wise, did you have interest in the Sox?
So I have an affection for the Sox because my dad loves baseball. We had season tickets when I was growing up, so we got to go to a lot of games, and it's great, but they don't care about the team. the Red Sox, they don't care about the team.
Yeah.
Even though they're kind of good this year. So when the Red Sox are good, it's a ton of fun. I love playoff baseball. I talked to Jack about this. I know we're on a tangent now. I talked to him.
Just my friend, it is very early in the baseball season to say anybody's good. That's all.
No, I don't think they're very good. But like I don't know if they're
good. I hear you.
If they're good, it's a blast because the playoffs are awesome. And I think playoff baseball is like a top watch because you have to hang on every pitch. Like it's so intense.
Believe me, I wish the Mets played more of it, and I'd agree with you. So.
But yeah, I like this. I like soccer. I like Liverpool is my I follow soccer, so that's like my secondary thing.
Gotcha.
And it's cool because I don't know anything about it, so I can just enjoy it. There is no paranoia.
I'm I think my favorite soccer team is the Richmond team from Ted Lasso. So that's as far as I get into
Ted Lasso rules.
It sincerely does. So I think we've kind of covered what your Mount Rushmore might be throughout it might actually be outside of the Celtics. It's just everybody. So the Mount Rushmore of rivals that I've asked everybody, the 4 teams that you go to, I'm curious if the Knicks are on it at this point.
All right. So I have a treat for you. Way back in September, this is an update of it. I published my Celtics blog Hater Index. I power ranked all other 29 franchises. And I said, this is who you should be rooting against. This is why. So I'll go through my top 4. I'll tell you what's changed. Obviously, number 1 is the Lakers. If you were going to make me do a Mount Rushmore of rivals, they have 2 of them, LeBron and the Lakers. I hate LeBron. Despise LeBron. I have a LeBron's bitch shirt back there. You can't see it. I have credentials hanging on this bitch, but it's back there.
Okay.
So they're number 1. Number 2 was Miami, and I used little measuring stick things for this. I was like, there's actually a rivalry. There's logic to it because they stand in the way, and you have a grudge from last year. Number 3, I think, was Philly they were number 4. Number 3 at the time was Golden State because they had the Celtics draft pick, or the Celtics had their draft pick, but then they traded it for Drew. So this was before the Drew trade. So I went back and I updated this. And right now, I would probably put the Knicks in my top 4 just because I don't want to see you guys be happy. I don't. The one guy ruined it for everybody. I get very upset when people say the league is better when the Knicks are good. No, it's not. Don't tell me who to root for.
Okay.
I get very don't tell me who to root for with that. But I would still say
very Boston. It's very New York too. Don't tell me what to do, but it's very Boston. Yes.
It's definitely the Lakers. It's definitely Miami, Philly, and probably the Knicks. I don't know if I have another team that I actively like. Kyrie, I always hope loses.
So Dallas falls in your
Dallas
by
with
default.
with their my career ball. And Milwaukee's kind of there, but I half feel bad for them. But I'm kind of mad at them because they're making me root against Doc, who I kind of like, even though he's he's a weird NBA figure because he didn't want to go through a rebuild with the Celtics. I wrote about this the other day, and people in the comments were like, "Yeah, we don't care for Doc, even if you might like him. We don't care for him." So everyone's entitled to their Doc opinion, but I'm mad that they hired him.
You mad that they fired him? You mean
Milwaukee?
Oh, you're mad that the Bucks hired him. Gotcha.
Because now I have to root against him. I liked him doing the Simmons pod. I liked him on ESPN. I was robbed of all of this.
Yeah. I have my Doc opinions. I kind of one edge I would give the Knicks in a series against the Bucks is the coaching advantage. I've kind of always thought that
Tibbs
Doc,
rules.
I mean, this firsthand as a young Celtics fan, the defensive coordinator of that 2008 Celtics team. Now, granted, It's really easy to coordinate a defense around Kevin Garnett, but I do want to give. I think Tibbs deserves it's not his ring, obviously, as a head coach. But if I'm going to by all accounts, especially when you listen to what those Celtics speak to as far as defensive principles that were preached, that was coming from assistant coach Tom Thibodeau, who was the same aggressive tendencies in coaching he has now. He was like that as an assistant too.
He's awesome, and people really don't talk about the importance of assistants enough. Up here in Celtic land, they hired Charles Lee over the summer. They brought in Sam Cassell, and I still think Mazzulla himself has taken a leap this year because there was so much made of him last year. But those guys definitely help. Like, they make a difference. Tibbs deserves credit for the things he did in Boston. He went to Chicago and had a great start to his coaching career, and he's done great with the Knicks. It just depends on whether or not they actually have guys that are going to buy into whoever is coaching. Whether it's Joe, whether it's Tibbs, they have the perfect team for Tibbs right now because all these guys are like, yeah, I'm down. I'll play defense. I'll run until the soles are off my shoes. It doesn't matter. And, you should like that. He's awesome. Tibbs is awesome. I will not hate Tibbs. Respect.
Good. Well, appreciate that. And
Perpetual
I think
Tibbs respect.
there's a lot of Knicks fans that still quibble about him. I think, well, I quibble about him too, but it's quite literally that, a quibble. Like I can't criticize him for the
He's
job
gonna hurt our
done.
guys. Is that it?
Well, no, it's like it's certain rotation. I've gone so far past the minutes stuff because I think there's 2 guys on minutes restrictions, 3 guys at this point with Anunoby back, but the training staff clearly has a say, and he listens. Isaiah Hartenstein has barely played over 30. I think he's played over 30 minutes twice since he's been on a minutes restriction. Same for Brunson. Only recently did he start playing more than 35. And then it's like, all right, well, you two I have to put in bubble wrap. Fine, I'll honor those minutes restrictions. Josh, Deuce McBride, anybody else, you're playing the entire second half because damn it, I'm not playing those Pistons that we traded for. And only recently has it been like the win against Milwaukee on Sunday. You actually saw like nobody played 40 minutes and you saw what potentially a balanced playoff rotation looks like. And they, like you said, they've all bought into Tibbs. My criticisms are very much like Precious Achiuwa at the 4, where he leans on some defensive principles when the offense needs a boost that I'd like. But I don't know, he's earned the benefit of the doubt this year. And like the way that they're running offense, not even just like Jalen be awesome, but like they ran some Golden State split action stuff last night through Hartenstein. And I just was like, what is this? I didn't see this for 4 years. And I'm intrigued by what he can do because I did not know where this was coming from. He's really adapted his play style to his personnel, which is really cool. Yeah,
it's great. And I have so much respect for the work Tibbs puts in. Like, you always hear about him just hanging out watching film. Like, he's like, yeah, I'm married to the game. Not interested in the ladies. I'm gonna get some Chinese food. I'm gonna watch tape, and I'm gonna enjoy coaching hoops. Yeah,
he's very much like not a people person, which he got criticism for when you had like a younger generation being like, well, Quickly's guy is clearly Johnny Bryant, and the younger generation, you need to be more in tune with people, like more personal. And we heard what Evan Fournier was saying, and you heard whispers about how much of a curmudgeon he is. And then the other takeaway when you hear all that is like, yeah, but no matter when we show up to the training facility, he's there. He's working. Like we could show up in the middle of the night. He's there. We could show up first thing in the morning. He's there. Like I go in for my workouts. He's there. And it's just like, does he live here? And I think that's the thing that this new version of the team has really bought into, that it's like, yeah, he may never ask me how I'm doing, but he'll absolutely make me a better basketball player, which is cool to see, So
that's a great line. He'll never ask me how I'm doing.
Right. He probably doesn't care. He's like, he just wants to know if you can guard Giannis tonight, or can you play 48, which I think that's where the CAA family that's been created in the Villanova version of this team. Like, okay, they're fine. Like, they're all friends already. You don't need to worry about chemistry. They've already created it. So, well, Sam, I thought this was a fun conversation. I'm glad we finally got to do this. I wish the worst on your basketball team, but I wish the best for you and Jack and your podcast, because I think you guys are really smart and know the game really well. I look forward to your reaction to the Knicks game against the Celtics in that basketball arena in Boston. That I'm not going to say what name it may be, but you know what I'm thinking. And before we go, please let the fine folks at home know where they can find you and all the stuff that you do and all the content that you create.
All right. Yeah. Well, thank you for having me. I had a blast. Good. And I will be back if I'm welcomed back. So
of course, with open arms, sir.
Playoffs happen or whatever. Anybody that thought I was funny or whatever, you can watch Jack and I talk Celtics if you're really just an NBA head and you want to get as much content as you can get. We're on YouTube. How About Them Celtics is the channel. We're doing stuff every single day. We got videos coming at you. We have streams. We have a new roundtable show that has a bunch of different Celtics beat people on it. So it's a lot of fun, a lot of takes on there. And we play games and stuff too, trivia. So if you're into that, it's perfect for you. My Twitter's at Sam LaFrance NBA, and I'm writing for Celtics blog, so I post stuff that's not generic. I'll write hater power rankings, for example. I'm there.
There you go. One of the staples, one of the legendary staples in niche NBA blogs is Celtics blog. So obviously the work you guys do is great. Thank you, Sam, for joining me. I look forward to whenever you come back in the future. And thank you to everybody for tuning in to this edition of the Knicks Film School pregame show. If you dig the show, head on over to iTunes, drop a 5-star rating and a review. If you're watching on YouTube, please like this video. Remember to subscribe. Not doing a pregame pod for the Nets because, well, let's just be honest. Who cares? They're irrelevant, which is hilarious with what went on over the past 4 years. The Knicks are at this place in their season and the Nets are not, we'll say. And then I have a fun pregame pod for you guys Sunday morning before the Bulls. Again, not talking about the Bulls because we've played them 3 times in the last week and a half. But I think a fun crossover that you're all going to enjoy. But until next time, thank you for listening. Thank you for watching. Enjoy the game tonight, and I'll speak with you soon. Peace.